Right, let's do a kind of a part two to the video done yesterday on the big freeze we had, the damage. I didn't really cover any of the plants sort of closer to the house, and that video did sort of go on longer than I expected, so we'll just do another sort of quick update on the plants down this end of the garden, because we sort of had a look at quite a few down the other end, and sort of really should have pointed out the Arundodanax, which generally has always been evergreen for me, but we can see with that prolonged freeze period the nice leaves have sort of browned a bit and sort of freeze dried, and that's not a concern really when it comes to the Arundodanax or Spanish reed. It does tend to, that will regrow from the canes. Even if all the leaves die off, that will reshoot, or you can just cut them down to ground level, and they depends on how full you want your plant to look, that will grow back from ground level and grow up to 3 meters in one season anyway, so that's not really a one to worry about. I think I've just been lucky the last few years that it's not been cold enough to damage it to the point it has been damaged now, but there we go. So we've got a just fold the leaves a bit, they've been wind swept. So we've got a Trachycarpus Nova here. I've had this one for a couple of years. They are quite a fast growing Trachycarpus, but I can see that's not really, there's a couple of sort of brownish points in the centre of the fronds, but in general that's looking quite nice and green. I'm not concerned about that. That's pretty much as hardy as the Fortunae. I will just say, I've done a video in the midsummer, I believe, on the Tetrapanax, which we had one of the pups came out with a variegated leaf. I never really done an update after that. If I can come in here. So it is a pup off this big plant here, which obviously the leaves have succumbed to the frosts. But the one that is variegated was that little tiny one there, and the actual variegated leaf has since dropped off, and the leaf after that wasn't variegated, so I'm not going to be a millionaire by producing variegated Tetrapanax, but there we go. Right, so let's go back to the updates of winter damage. I have got a small Washingtonia robusta which I brought this year just for illustration purposes, really, for a video I done, and not really too concerned about it. There's actually 4 little palms in a pot there, and that's literally just under the cover of the arid shelter, so that'll be an interesting one. At the moment it looks alright. I mean, that brown leaf was already there, so yeah, that'll be a good little indicator as well to see how much damage that takes. But the stuff under the shelter itself, and we have got tender stuff underneath here, along with a lot of the sort of cacti, which are obviously normally just sold as house plants and stuff, because they've been kept bone dry for the last couple of months. But don't expect them to cause me any issues. But I can see the Aeoniums. I don't know if we can see them. We've got the green one here, and they have flopped down, so we will take damage on them, but I've no doubt they will reshoot. So So I don't think they're dead. They're just going to lose some heads on them. Again, sort of nice to have a indicator plant, and we've got a just behind this potted agave, actually planted in the arid bed. We've got a aloe, Cape aloe, which are not supposed to be hardy at all, but that has been out for 3 winters from a very small plant, and this took the odd bit of damage here and there, but this Pacific cold spell will definitely show on that plant. So yeah, in general, like I say, everything's dry underneath here, and there are still a few weeds growing in there as well. So yeah, we'll see on that. The aeoniums are probably the biggest disappointment underneath here for this particular freeze period. But like I say, I don't think we've lost them. They're just lose maybe some of the smaller stems. Right, so we've got some yuccas here. So we've got the yucca jewel, which is a slight discoloration in some of the leaves. So this does take damage, this particular plant, but a lot of yuccas do on the older leaves anyway. You can see sort of brown spots, and that's just a case of in the spring chopping them off, and that'll expose a bit of the trunk anyway, so I think that won't be a problem. Yeah, it's definitely the coldest patch we've had since I've had this plant in the ground, so that's going to be an interesting one. And the variegated elephantites, to be fair, looks as good as ever. I don't think there's anything to worry about there. So I was looking in the greenhouse, and yes, there is a dead plant right there. That is a fiddle leaf fig, but everything else didn't seem too bad. So I took a lot of cuttings of the aeoniums anyway, because you never know when you're going to get a period like we've just had. So if we do lose any big plants that are still outside, then we've got backups. So that's always a good thing to do. Looking through the window here, I have got a little max and minimum temperature, and the minimum temperature, so it did get below freezing in the greenhouse, minus 1.7. And this is not a greenhouse which gets a lot of winter sun. It really only gets a couple of hours, and that's if you get a bit of sun in winter, which get a lot of cloudy days. So that's not one that's going to warm up during the day a lot, let's put it that way. So we did get nearly -2 in the greenhouse, and yet I think a lot of the plants aren't looking too bad. I mean, I've got some small Schefflera Twinianas there, they seem fine. Tetrapanics are still holding on to their leaves. The avocados are looking a bit brown and crispy on top, but a lot of the smaller cuttings and stuff still seem okay in there. I have got this aloe here, which is a aloe arborescens, so that's not a hardy aloe, and that is looking a bit worse for wear. Well, the main plant is, we can see there's some sort of browning on that, but there's a lot of little shoots in the bottom which still look perfectly green and healthy. So yeah, so even in a greenhouse, sort of sheltered with this weather we've had, yeah, minus 1.7. So that is what's going on there. Let's just quickly whip over to some of these Cordylines australis, which I've grown from seed a couple of years back, and like I say, these have not been particularly sort of looked after that well. They've been treated quite mean, and these have all frozen through solid. And I can see even now they're solid, so that'll be interesting to see if they pull through. And just on a bit of a side note, I've got a Colocasia Escalente there, which I've done absolutely nothing with. So obviously it has just totally frozen and turned to mush. But the idea of that is, well, on a mild winter I believe that'd probably be okay, but that's going to rot off now. That's frozen solid and that's going to rot. So again, I mean, I don't mind experimenting and losing a few plants along the way. That's what it's all about, you know, for next time. Yes, that is a fish tank. I had nowhere to put it, so I thought, well, that's out the way there, I'll put it there, and put a couple of agaves in there. So again, we've got a agave tricolour, which is starting to pop off quite nicely. There's 3 or 4 pups around that, so I'll divide them in the spring if it survives. Like I say, I mean, that's not the hardiest type of agave whatsoever, but that has been kept dry, so we'll see exactly how hardy it is. Yeah, just seeing what catches my eye. And I have got some Chamaerops humilis in pots. So there's one here, and this has never been a problem for me, but again, with this cold period we've just had, it could prove me wrong, so we'll see on that one. So that is actually in a sort of terracotta pot, and that's not frozen, but I'm not saying it hasn't frozen through at some point over this period, so that could be a good one to watch as well. I mean, it is in quite a small pot. I mean, that's done quite well over the last few years. It's sort of thrown out quite a lot of little pups now and whatnot. And then we've got another one here, another Chamaerops in a plastic pot. This one, so it has been wet, it has been freezing cold. So again, that'll be one to watch. And I do believe that most of these small, and I've got a combination of these are all seed grown by myself. So what we've got here, we've got Phoenix canariensis, Phoenix dectilifera, Trachycarpus, some of them are crossed with Waggy and some are just straight Fortunei, and we have got a couple of Washingtonia filibusters. Like I say, these are all seed grown by myself, and they are all in their second or third year, and they've all been exposed to, not fully exposed, but they've all been exposed to cold winters in cold frames basically. So this is the first year they've sort of been out in the open, so that'll be another tester to see how they do. And you can see the soil's not frozen at all there, but again, I'm not saying that at some point over the last couple of nights they haven't frozen over totally, but again, it's just making use of an area which wouldn't get used in winter. And like I say, we're on the concrete slab, so they do absorb a bit of sun when we get it. But yeah, some of these very small ones maybe touch and go. So that is just a sort of a finish up to where I started yesterday. Yeah, not really seen anything else of note which is worth pointing out at the moment. Alright, we'll leave it there. Thanks for watching.